Rick and Morty comic issue 6. We start out seeing some interdimensional cable. We see some soldiers in a house at dusk, and one of them speaks poetically about the night. I wonder if night is a feminine word in Spanish as well as in French, because he called it a she. Oh good, the writing's self-aware because his friend says he should have been a poet. And again, the character basically says what I was thinking by saying that the world doesn't value poetry. Yeah, because no one would die without it. It's not necessary, except for song lyrics. Then the soldier tells his friend to come with him and let the dictators fight their own wars because they never chose this life. But didn't they choose to get... I guess they got drafted into the war then. Or their fathers forced them to become soldiers. Then they get killed by some rebels. I guess the writer trying to get you attached to a mook before you saw him die was supposed to be the whole joke. Especially because the guy who killed him said unironically, "That's for America, you soulless rebel bastards!" And I almost giggled. So yeah, it's definitely to make him an idiot. The orange-haired woman, Fulgora, calls her friend Benjamin, and says the door's wide open and asks his position. Then an overly jovial, innocent-looking person says he's just sitting in a sneaky barn, while the goats generously leave him alone instead of trying to attack a stranger there. When goats are a lot more vicious than that. He's told to get serious because a senator's life is at stake. Oh no, a random politician is in danger. How do we know he's not corrupt? It would have been actually impactful if it was the life of a character we were given a reason to care about first. I guess they didn't care whether we cared or not. Then Benjamin says someone's coming and he can't respond anymore. I think he got killed or knocked out because someone attacked him from the window behind him or beside him where he wasn't looking. But how did anyone know to look for him there at night? The green guy Logan snarks sarcastically that the mission's going poorly, and she says an overly crude thing in response to relieve stress. The story's lucky I'm humoring it with an extensive review because these are all brand new characters I'm just suddenly introduced to in media res that I have no reason to care about. So it's a very good thing that the writing's at least strongly establishing their individual personalities and names right off the bat, and they all have unique, interesting designs that stand out from each other. So at least it's trying. Then the running gag of how realistically soldiers are people too continues, as the soldier tells a potential rebel to come out so he can work through this, and says he's only got 1 week left here, and then he can finally pay for his dad's surgery, and he doesn't want any trouble. He hears some rustling and then says sorry about that when he sees some goat with a bunch of little animals near it. But then he notices a rebel hiding in the straw, just to run away for some reason. Why was he scared? At least the plot's trying to be interesting in spite of the unfamiliar characters, because partly due to the in-media res nature of the story, you have no idea what's coming next and what the general plot will be. The soldier gets snuck up on by a big person who's wearing a goat costume around himself as a disguise. The soldier was all alone and running away. Did he really need to kill him? Neither side is completely in the right here. It's weird that when the guy, Attila, makes a joke and laughs, he still looks completely serious. Even his mouth is closed. Maybe that was part of the joke. He pointlessly starts rapping after he's called up, even though he should logically know that he's in the middle of a dangerous mission and doesn't have the time for this. That was a forced joke, and his friends complaining about it just makes it more frustrating. Not to mention even more forced, unless he's intentionally trying to annoy them. We see that the prisoners being guarded by the soldiers are miserable. The imprisoned senator is a horrible design, but is at least unusually caring. And Attila and Benjamin break in, defeating the soldier guarding him and save him. He complains that he wants to say goodbye to his friend, a normal rat who he's worried might be getting a chest cold. Seriously, I don't know why the artist thought that design was appealing, and I'm not gonna bother you by showing you it. Realistically, he would have died. Then they get stopped by some soldiers, one of whom snarks at their scared reactions, and Loggins and Fulgora plan on bringing them out and show us a motorcycle in the forest. And the green soldier walks up to Attila and the soldier. I love how the Spanish word for welcome is very similar looking to the word for welcome in French. I immediately knew what he was trying to say. It was amusing that his name was Normal Head Regular Arms. It sounds so fake. He says he's the supreme commander of the rebel oligarchist front. and tells someone they're a long way from home for Americans and should have minded their own business. He threatens the heroes with soldiers, and for some reason Benjamin and him start laughing. It was very hard to get what the joke was at first, because it's hard to convey what's going on properly with a bunch of still images and no dialogue. He makes a throwing motion with his arm, and is holding a metal thing shaped like a key, while there's a yoink sound effect near his shoulder. And he says, "Yippee-ki-yay!" And then there's a constant ticking sound effect, and he says, "Oh," looking down at his hand, which is still holding it. And he panics while moving around. So, a grenade stuck to his back apparently. How? And Attila takes it off his back and throws it, and it explodes. So now it makes a lot more sense what the joke is supposed to be. I guess if I had been familiar with whatever the hell the yippee sentence is ripped off from, I would have immediately known what he was trying and failing to do. So Benjamin takes the wheel while Attila shoots back at the soldiers trying to stop them, and they get intimidated by a helicopter trying to shoot at them. Then we see Fulgora riding over to them with a shooting motorcycle, and she lands in the Jeep, and I guess I'm supposed to believe, based on the crunch sound and distractingly unrealistic X-eyes, that killed the senator? Then the vehicle drives off a cliff from the distraction, and there's an explosion. Benjamin asks his friends if they're okay, and says he can't see anything. Coughs while going to a tent, and hears some soldiers saying that they know where he went, planning going after him. The heroes all run over to the extraction point, and the senator asks if he's going to make it. And it's definitely gotten annoying how many times Attila keeps saying the word package. He's a painfully unfunny, immersion-breaking character. The heroes then get stopped by some soldiers in normal head, and someone complains that the coronation is tonight, and he has to meet the princess, and he's mad that he's been brought here where he'll get made an outfit of garbage. Then he wants Benjamin's clothes. I guess it being so confusing and out of nowhere is the whole joke. Were we supposed to find it forced that this guy's here? I mean, Benjamin isn't he much shorter than him? Well, at least all the bad writing can be excused as it's fiction within fiction, so maybe you're supposed to think that it's poorly written, and it's not supposed to be really well written. Fulgora pointlessly tries to guilt Normalhead into not trying to kill more people, but then after he calls them out on only caring about American lives, Benjamin suddenly creates a force field to protect himself from the soldiers after he walks in front of them. He sends them away with that convenient power he logically should have been using earlier, but I guess he could somehow only do that without his clothes. So why didn't he take them off earlier? Was he that self-conscious? And he advertises an ice-cold Clark light out of nowhere while attacking them, which was a joke about out-of-place product placement in fiction that was also forced in context. But again, because this is fiction within fiction, I guess it's on purpose. Bad writing is still bad, even if it's on purpose, because it's still just as off-putting. I'm still just as confused by it. But I guess it's okay if it's funny. The story ends with the TV being turned off, and a poorly drawn Rick snarks to his confused grandson that he totally saw that coming. I guess it could make sense that he'd see product placement coming if he'd seen that poorly named show that many times. But how could he have predicted the exact thing advertised? Maybe he didn't. Maybe that's not what he's talking about. And since when does he not want to be that guy? Usually someone who says, "I don't want to be that guy," is someone who's a complete idiot who would be smarter if they just didn't say what they were going to say then. But Rick is intentionally meant to be a villain protagonist, like he's supposed to be an asshole. Well, for a story that tells you to not be invested in it right away by having nothing but unfamiliar characters right away in a mission, they tried to do the best they could do. They had each of the characters have a distinct, memorable design and a clear personality that's established right away. They often say their names as well. At the end of the day, though, I don't think it mattered what their personalities were, only what they actually did. Their mission was about rescuing a horrible-looking senator that you wanted off the panels every time he showed up, who logically wouldn't have lived this long. And another reason the whole story's forced is that we aren't even told why the senator was kidnapped by those soldiers, which seems like an illegal international incident waiting to happen. Not something that a ragtag group of illegal rebels would be tasked with taking care of. That'd be something professionals like an actual military team would be handling, wouldn't it? Why aren't they in the actual military? Are they the military? I mean, they're called rebels. It was an interesting twist that Benjamin had a magical force field power, at least. And since he always looked weird, it made sense that he had to have something special about him as an alien. Even if it coming out of nowhere technically made it a Deus Ex Machina, to the point where I think the hero should have just gotten to the extraction point perfectly fine in the first place. It would have made more sense that way. The only reason I know that this poorly named team is a ripoff of the A-Team is thanks to Rick and Morty's TV Tropes page. I find it impossible to believe that the team would agree to such a name, which would just have all of their enemies laughing at them and mocking them every time, even if their name was just come up with as a joke by them. I guess every enemy that laughs at their name is immediately killed, so their enemies quickly learned not to do that. The story overall was engaging and exciting the whole way through, because you had a reason to root for these characters because of their sympathetic goal, and they were constantly in danger. But I was still waiting for the story to end the entire time because Senator looks horrible. I don't really care for these characters. It's fiction within fiction anyways, which is the definition of padding. And so I just wanted to read a story about the Rick and Morty protagonist again. But I do admire the approach of having a focus on seeing an entire episode of an interdimensional cable show for a change, so we can really see what Rick's watching, rather than nothing but small snippets each of various shows, as he does nothing but channel surf the entire time. At least this way we get a full coherent story out of the interdimensional cable to actually be invested in.